Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you my best tips and tools to create beautiful home decor on a budget. Today's video is a little bit of a hodgepodge of projects using supplies from different stores. I've had quite a few people comment that their Dollar Trees don't have many of the supplies that I use. So I thought today I would make 4 fall DIYs using items mainly from Michael's and Hobby Lobby and some Dollar Tree items thrown in there a little bit. So with all that being said, let's get crafting. For DIY number 1, we're going to use this round cutting board shaped sign from Dollar Tree as well as some ribbon. We're going to use this scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby and some paint as well as one of my Magnolia stencils. So I loved the shape of this sign, and because it's cardboard, it was pretty easy to take apart. So we're just going to take off that circle in the middle so we can modify it. We're going to take out this string and add that back in later. So coming to the background or the cutting board, I'm going to remove all the spots where the glue was dried on and get it as smooth as I can. Then I'm going to put a generous amount of my Mod Podge on there, spreading it with a paintbrush. And then once we have that nice and kind of uniform in the layer of Mod Podge, we're going to take this gorgeous scrapbook paper. This is the first year I've seen this paper at Hobby Lobby, and spritz a little water on the back, and we're going to cover the cutting board with this paper. Now you can see it doesn't go all the way to the top of the handle, but we're going to fix that in a few more steps. So press it on there. I'm using this burnishing tool just to squeeze out any of the excess glue. You can see that there, or the Mod Podge, excuse me. So we're going to set that aside and we're going to let that dry. Coming to the circle now, I am going to take the time to peel off the paper design, which pretty much came off in one piece except for a couple stray pieces. I'm going to sand this nice and smooth, and then I'm going to give this a coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color Ocean. I'm really loving the blue and orange together, especially how they are in that scrapbook paper. So a nice uniform layer. I might have actually done 2 layers of paint just to make sure it was nice and covered. Coming back to the cutting board, now that our Mod Podge and paper are dry, I'm just going to flip this over on a cutting mat here and trim the excess scrapbook paper from around the cutting board. And we are going to use one of those pieces here in just a minute, but first I'm going to take my sander and just clean up those edges around our cutting board. Next, taking some more Mod Podge, I'm going to spread that out again on top of the scrapbook paper and let that dry just to make sure that our sign will be nice and protected from any spills or anything like that. Now here you can see I'm going to add Mod Podge on the top part of the handle that wasn't already covered. And I'm just going to take one of my scraps of the paper. It's not going to match up the picture perfectly, but that's okay because we're going to end up putting a bow on the handle anyway. I'm just finishing covering the handle with some scrapbook paper. Now coming back to our blue circle, we're going to seal that paint with some Mod Podge. We're using a lot of Mod Podge in this project, but it is a very useful craft supply. We're going to let this Mod Podge dry on our blue circle, and we're going to come and trim around the handle that extra scrapbook paper. Now coming back to our blue circle, I'm going to use this Hello Fall stencil from monarchmomdiy.com. There's a lot of different things you could use to add some words or even a picture to the front of this blue circle, but I wanted to use one of my stencils and just use this mustard seed chalk paste. All these colors are in that scrapbook paper. And so we're just going to basically silk screen these words onto the center of our blue circle, and then we will peel the stencil to reveal the words underneath. I love how these golden letters look on the blue, but something else I like to do is take some more of the chalk paste on my squeegee and just kind of frame out around the shape just to give a little bit more texture and interest to the project. I did spray that with a clear spray when it was dry, and now we're just going to hot glue that circle back onto the center of our cutting board that we've completely changed with the scrapbook paper and the paint and the stencil. I think this is a really cool project, and it shows that you can take these simple supplies from Dollar Tree and really make them into something unique that fits your style and your decor and lets you craft for not very much money. The last thing I'm going to do is take this Dollar Tree ribbon, which has these same colors in it, and I'm going to just tie a loop of it in the center to make a really simple bow, and then we'll hot glue this to the top of the handle and add a button as well. DIY number 2 is a little bit larger of a project using this wood shaped garland and this large pumpkin from Hobby Lobby, as well as some craft sticks and this large wooden sign from Michaels. So first I'm going to come to this fall garland. It is $4.99 regularly, but on sale 40% right now. I'm taking it apart so I can use the wood shapes. There's 2 pumpkins, 2 leaves, and 2 acorns, and these are good size and a good thickness for $3. So essentially 50 cents a shape, which is a great deal. I'm going to paint my shapes with little foam brushes and some paint to give them a nice uniform coat that's not too thick. We're going to use pumpkin on the pumpkins, and then we're going to use maize, this bright yellow, on the leaves, and then we'll use hazelnut, which is kind of a creamy yellowy brown, on the acorns. Once all of our shapes were dry, I am going to sand them lightly. You can see I also used hazelnut a little bit on the stems of the pumpkins, just sanding them to be smooth, and then wipe the excess dust off with a baby wipe. I'm going to do this to all 6 of my shapes. Now, instead of using stencils or stickers for the letters, I decided to try to make the letters out of these craft sticks from Dollar Tree. These are larger than popsicle sticks, but not super big. So what I'm doing is I'm just using pieces of the sticks here to make the letters to spell the word autumn. So I did A, U, and then we'll do T here. You can see I'm just trimming them and laying them out for right now. Then we'll come back and we will glue the letters together and then paint them. Next, I'm going to take this wood hello word. This is actually in my stash from a wood kit. It's leftover piece that I'm going to just paint with black chalk paint. And you can find words like that at Hobby Lobby as well. Now, like I said, I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to glue the pieces of craft stick together to form each of my letters to spell the word autumn. Then once those were all glued, I'm going to use that same small foam brush and that black paint and paint all of our letters as well. So the word hello and the letters to spell autumn will all be black. Then I'm going to use my hot glue and I'm just going to glue one letter down to the center of each of my shapes. So my surface for this project is this folded in half wood sign from Michaels. It's 3 feet folded in half, so it extends to 6 feet. You can see here it just says Art Minds wood sign. And I don't know how much it normally was, but I got it at a thrift store for $1 because somebody probably got it and then ended up not using it. So I decided to do the background of my sign in moss. So I'm going to give all of my sign on the front only. I'm not going to paint any of the sides. A coat of moss, and then I'm going to sand it nice and smooth. Next, we'll come to our large pumpkin here, which is marked $4.99, but is $3 on sale right now at 40% off. I'm going to use another foam sponge brush and give this a coat of pumpkin Waverly chalk paint. Then once that paint is dry, I am going to sand my pumpkin slightly with my hand sander here because I am going to show you another optional way you can use a Magnolia stencil from monarchmomdiy.com just to add a little more interest and texture to your pumpkin. This stencil is called Tartan Plaid, and I am going to apply this to my pumpkin with glittering copper. Again, you could just keep your pumpkin colored plain. You could make stripes on it by using painter's tape to create stripes to paint in. But I really like when I can just show you optional ways you can add to your projects using my Magnolia stencils. So you can see I am going to have to come back and lay this stencil down another time just to cover the rest of my pumpkin. But once we do that, we're going to also use a little of that glittering copper chalk paste to paint the stem of our little pumpkin. And then we'll make sure that all of that dries completely. I'll spray it with a clear spray. And now we are ready to glue our pieces to our sign. So I'm going to start with the hello at the very top. Then I had to put it on the floor because this thing is so huge. So we're going to start gluing down. I have the hello, the A-U-T-U all on the top half. And you'll see I will move this up a little bit. And then down here on the second half, I'll have the M, the N, and then the large pumpkin we're going to glue at the very bottom of our sign. So like I said, when you unfold this and put the little metal pegs in, this stands 6 feet tall. I'm going to throw a little jute twine bow up here at the top also to cover the hole from the pumpkin. So this is what it looks like. I hope you guys like this. I really had a lot of fun putting this together and just using some different types of supplies like the craft sticks for the letters. I'd love to know what you guys think of this. If you love budget home decor DIY videos like this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and leaving a comment or two. That lets YouTube know people are enjoying my content, and then they'll show it to more and more viewers. For DIY number 3, we're going to use some of these hexagon box plaques from Michaels, some paint, and some of these rub-ons from Dollar Tree, as well as some scrapbook paper and little random fall decor pieces. So these are 99 cents at Michaels. I love the hexagon shapes. They can be beehives, they can be pumpkins. We're just going to remove the hanger and the twine from the back, and then we're going to take our pumpkin Waverly chalk paint, and basically I'm going to paint the inside, outside, and top edge of the frame there. And then I am also going to paint the back. So really the only thing I'm not painting completely is the inside there that's showing on the front. Again, once that paint is dry, we're going to sand it, smooth it out lightly. It does give it a little bit more of a yellow color, but then once you spray your finished project, it will look pretty much orange again. So getting everything painted and nice and smoothed out. Then I'm going to take some scrapbook paper and I'm going to trace the hexagon shape. Now this was a little tricky because I had to trace the outside of the hexagon, and then I'm going to have to trim each side, each of the 6 sides of the hexagon about the thickness of the frame so that it will fit inside our hexagon shape. So just kind of eyeballing it. It's okay if it's not perfect because I did paint a little bit of the orange paint onto the inside there so that it'll cover up any little miscuttings of the paper. But I think I got them pretty good. And I'm going to do it with this truck paper and also with the wood shiplap paper. Then we're just going to take our Mod Podge, spritz a little bit of water on the back of our paper, and we're going to press that down firmly on the inside of our hexagon there, getting it as straight as we can, and then pressing out any air bubbles. We'll do this on both of our hexagons. There's the truck one, getting the same thing, getting the paper all pressed down and lined up with no air bubbles. I love using things that are in my stash left over from other projects. These little leather tags were from some pumpkin and acorn and leaf shaped shelf sitters that I got from Dollar Tree this year, but I didn't use these on the original project, so I'm going to trim them and use them for these. First though, I'm going to take some of these wood stems from Dollar Tree and just give each of our pumpkins a little stem. Now on the wood shiplap scrapbook paper, I decided to use some of these rub-on transfers that I had from Dollar Tree. These little like twig greenery pieces. I'm going to do 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So I just have them in the 4 pieces, pressing them down and then burnishing them and then removing the plastic. So we'll do this with all 4 of the pieces. I decided I wanted the little grateful leather tag to stick out, so I am going to hot glue a tumbling tower block to the back and then put some glue on the block and press that down right in the center of our little hexagon pumpkin to make that word more 3D and to stick out. In the truck paper pumpkin, I'm just going to put a little pumpkin and a little sunflower kind of down in the corner. This is just an idea. You guys can definitely take these ideas and add whatever you'd like to the center, any cute paper or little sayings that you have. And then I'm going to take some raffia and I'm going to tie a knot of raffia around the stems and just make some kind of little bit of country kind of topping here on our pumpkins. On this one, I'm going to take the thankful tag and just glue it kind of in the corner. And I love these little pumpkins. They're super fun and simple to make. These would be a fun project to do with some kids as well. DIY number 4 of this video is probably my favorite. I'm using this square wood plaque from Michaels as well as these gorgeous leaf napkins and this square beaded picture frame from Dollar Tree. Now these are really nice. They come 2 in a pack and they come with a sawtooth hanger and a jute twine hanger. They are 8 inches square, but because I'm using that leaf napkin, I need to paint the background white. Otherwise, it's going to look really weird with the napkin. So I'm giving it a good coat of white Waverly chalk paint. Then I'm going to sand it lightly so we have a nice smooth surface for our napkins. Next, I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to put a pretty generous amount. Try to get this spread out as evenly as possible, and then we're going to let it dry completely. Next, coming to this frame, I'm going to take that green moss color and I am going to paint around this outside square on the outside of the beads. I'm going to go all the way around the square and then I'm also going to paint up on the edges on all 4 sides. Next, I'm going to come in with maize, and I'm going to do the same thing, but on the smaller square that's on the inside of the beads. I did, as you can see, removed the backing and the glass from the frame because we're actually not going to use these, and it made it a lot easier to paint the inside there of the edge with the maize as well. After my initial layer of Mod Podge dried, I decided I wanted to do one more layer. I'm not sure why it was looking yellow. I think it was maybe because of the dark stain that was underneath. But anyway, I went ahead and did a second coat of the Mod Podge and let that dry completely. Next, taking this leaf napkin, again, these were from Michaels. It's a 2-ply napkin, so I'm using some tape to help me remove that back ply because we just want the layer that has the printed design on it. So these are nice and big, so I'm just going to center this on my Mod Podge sign, put some parchment paper down, and then I'm going to iron this for a little bit. Now, the hardest part probably, or the part that needed the most attention, was getting into the little spaces between the 4 slats of my sign. So just kind of use the pointy part at the top of your iron and get in there so that it's nice and stuck down to all that Mod Podge. Once that was dry and cooled off, I'm going to take my little sander and clean up all the extra napkin from around the edges. And then I'm going to take just a little piece of sandpaper off the handle, and I'm coming in between and sanding the spaces between the slats. I know people have said you can use an emery board for this as well, but my thin little pieces of sandpaper from my little hand sander worked just fine for this. And oh my goodness, look at how gorgeous that napkin is. Okay, so now we don't want anything to happen to this, so we're gonna do a layer of Mod Podge on top of the napkin, very gently, just kind of pouncing a little bit with that foam brush, and maybe just brushing lightly, but you don't want to use a heavy hand with this because you don't want to rip a hole in your napkin. Next, I'm coming to these wood words from Dollar Tree, maybe a year or 2 ago. These came unfinished. I had stained it previously for a different project and not used it, but I'm painting over that with pumpkin. And then coming back to my frame, I'm going to remove the little metal pieces since we're not using the backing. And then we are going to glue this down to the center of our background. Oh my goodness, I love this project so much. I love when you can take a few different pieces and layer them and just make something so beautiful and unique. So we have this square beaded sign that's painted on top of the beautiful leaf napkin, Mod Podged onto the wood plank sign. And then we're just going to take that Hello Autumn and we're just going to glue it to the very front of our square frame. I love how this turned out. You could do so many different projects using this technique with different napkins, all sorts of different things. I'd love to know what you guys thought of these projects, and we'll see you soon. Thanks again so much for joining me today. Please let me know what you thought of this video, which of these projects was your favorite. And I have some of these gorgeous leaf napkins that I used in today's project. I am going to randomly choose some comments of people who tell me what their main craft supply store is where you shop. So is it Hobby Lobby? Is it Michaels? Is it Dollar Tree? Is it Joann's Fabrics? Is it Walmart? Let me know in the comments and I'll be picking some winners to get some napkin Happy Mail from me. Thanks everybody. Take care and have a great day. We'll see you next time.